asking. That's so sweet of you.
Yeah, like I mean the emergency is out and I'm sure that he'll just like feel better in a very short amount of time.
Oh, thank you so much. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. It's weekend, so I'm like definitely fine.
You must be excited.
Yes, of course.
All right, so we were going over literary arguments from our previous class, correct?
Yes.
And we also read Othello, and I believe I only sent you how many pages of the annotated version of it?
I didn't check. I'll check now.
Yes, because I believe you asked me for um I believe you asked me for the rest of the annotation, and I was looking for it and I couldn't, but I am going to look through my teacher's books, and if I find it in my curriculum, then I can send you pictures of it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course. But just let me know in the chat how many I've already sent you, and then I can still try to look for the rest.
Um,
That's so sweet of you that you've asked about my dad. Thank you, girl.
no, I mean like it's just like I'm worried and then I saw your message and I really hope that your dad will feel better.
I really hope so too.
Well, I mean, since he's already feeling better, I'm sure like there's no more emergency and then like he's just going to be better in like very short amount of time and he's going to like stay healthy.
Yeah, I pray so. He's out the emergency because they need the beds in the emergency, but he's still in the hospital. But it's okay. Honestly, it's I have hope, you know?
I'm sure it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So just double check how much I've sent you.
I think for the analysis, I think it's up to Act 5,
Act
Scene 2.
5. Okay. Are you familiar with um what we read from I know it's been like 2 weeks, but do you need us to go over it?
Um, I think maybe no. I think yeah.
Okay. So, if you're okay with it, I did want us to focus on character focus and the key arguments. I know in English curriculum, they always focus on what each character is portraying and what their importance is. Okay? So,
Um,
I want us to talk about each character, but the main one so far, Lego, I'm sorry, yeah, um, Othello's, Desdemona's, and Um, how do you say this name again? Iago? Lego?
I think maybe
I've
I'm
always
not
said
sure.
I've always said Lego, but another
Oh,
I've always said Lego, and so has another one of my teachers. Um, but the students always say Iago. But I go with Lego, so I'm gonna say that for now.
I'm sticking with Iago, but like I guess there's just different versions of the name.
There is, yeah, because Iago is in the actual movie. I don't know if you've watched it, the Shakespeare movie. We have it in
Oh,
curriculum. So in school, we typically read a whole scene and then we watch a scene. That's how it works. And some versions say Lego and some versions says Iago.
I wish my school would do that.
If you want, I believe we talked about watching scenes together, right?
Yeah, I want to do that, definitely.
Okay. So while you work on the actual component, I can try to find some, and if I can, we can watch it, and if not, next week's class we can, okay?
That feels so good. I think
Yeah.
I'll go with Lego because like Lego like sort of relates to like the brick building toy and I like that.
Yeah, that's I do too, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so I want us to focus on the key arguments of each one. So I want, starting off with Lego, I want you to discuss his persuasive rhetoric side. How did he use his manipulation to build his argument about Desdemona's faithfulness? Okay, so how did he convince Othello that his wife was being very was not loyal. Okay? Like what parts in the story. I want you to use evidence and analyze that evidence. Be like, okay, maybe there was this specific part where he mentioned where he kind of tried to twist Desdemona's intentions, and how did he make it into like how did he manipulate that into um unloyalty? And what does it say about the theme of jealousy or trust? I want you to put it in the chat. And then while you're at it, also work on Othello's argument and Desdemona's. So I want you to explore how Othello's argument about honor and reputation leads him to make his destructive decision. You know, basically, what made him turn on his own wife, right? So how did he believe Lego's manipulation over his own wife? What happened? Right? And maybe do you think his role in society has impacted that? So I want you to think about it and write about it. And then with Desdemona, I want you to figure out about her argument about love, loyalty, and innocence. How does she try to prove herself? How does she defend herself and prove her loyalty? So with each one, I want you to have at least one um, evidence from the actual act, and I want you to cite it. You know how to cite, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to do that and analyze it for me. There's no
Oh,
wrong answers. I just want to know if you're able to analyze.
yeah, sure.
All right.
Uh, yeah. I think you sent me before like the Othello text. I'm not quite sure. Oh yeah, I think you did. Yeah,
Yes, I
thank you.
believe I have.
Yeah.
I am going to stop sharing so I can find the actual YouTube videos,
Oh,
but I
yay.
posted in the chat, okay? The questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, in school we just like I don't know, like we just waste the class time. I mean, it's not waste, but like the teacher just like talk about like the scene, and then I mean I'm wasting the class time because like I just couldn't focus at like near the middle and towards the ends. But like
Mhm.
it feels like I feel like maybe just watch a movie or like watch some videos will be like better for understanding, and I would not be like so like maybe like so stressed out.
Yeah, no, I get it. Honestly, I personally love showing visuals. I feel like students
Yeah.
understand better when we first maybe watch a script and then read it, because then you're able, because Shakespeare has a very unique sense of writing. You know this, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard. It's very difficult, at least me personally, and a lot of my students, to understand what he's trying to say. So when you watch it and then read it, I find it more easier.
Yeah, like I always need to like watch it, like not need it, but it's just a habit of mine. So like when I was
Mm.
reviewing for a biology test or like reviewing for a history test, I would often watch the video first about like the content,
Yeah.
and then I would like go in and then review it because I feel like that's just like watching a video is just building up like pretty much like 90% of my knowledge. And then I just have to read over the things that I might not quite get it. And then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like videos are the best invention in 21st century. Definitely.
Definitely. And honestly, you actually learn, like, science and research does prove that you tend to learn better off of visuals. Like active recall? Have you
No.
Active recall is one of the best ways, effective ways of studying for a test. So is visual. So when you are teaching whatever you're studying to maybe your little sister or your parent as if you're teaching a little kid, so that way you're breaking everything apart and you're making sure you understand your topic to the point where you're able to teach it. So like active recall, visuals actually help connect your neurons in your brain to actually make it more sense. It's actually scientifically proven.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust science.
Yeah.
So like maybe on Monday I could just like kind of talk to my literature teacher and I could say like, well, science have proved that watching videos is better for our brain. So yeah.
Yeah, it actually helps you. Obviously, you definitely need to read as well. You can do both.
I would just prefer doing one. this reading was like reading Shakespeare especially was too tough. It's like I mean, it's not the language for like 21st century, and then like I also often feel like having a hard time understanding what he's talking about because he used so many like metaphors and similes, and then he
Mm-hmm.
used like many like ancient adjective also and like illustrate the Bible and then made some biblical allusions that I was like, well, I don't know, I don't understand anything about that. Like when I was in school and the teacher asked, I was like the first time to read scene one and I thought Iago was a nice guy.
Oh, really?
Yes, so purely reading the text was like not beneficial for me. I mean, like Iago did confess that he was a bad guy, but I just couldn't I didn't understand it because I just didn't understand the metaphors he made and like how his language sum up. And
Mm-hmm.
then yeah. I thought Iago, like for the first time, I thought Iago was like in a marriage with Desdemona, but then this guy called Othello, like came in and stole their marriage, and then like ruined their marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and then Iago was like fighting for justice, and then I realized that that's completely not the truth.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it
Honestly,
is.
at least you got to know.
Well, at least I know the names.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Albert, you can take as much time as you need. I am right here.
Yeah, sure.
Unmute if you need help, okay?
Okay.
And
Thank
again,
you.
it does not have to be right or wrong, because I will show you my answers as well.
Just as long as it was not as wrong as mine. I'm sure it will not be like that wrong. So yeah.
Yeah. Hey Chenmei, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm still writing.
Okay, it's all right. Do you want to finish up your thought and then in 5 minutes, let's just take a break to watch scene one and then you can continue.
Definitely.
Okay, in 5 minutes.
Yay. Okay, okay, sure.
All right, how about we take a little break from the writing activity and we watch Act 1, Scene 1 and 2.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I was unable to find the free version of actual Othello, and I can't access it without it being on my school account, just things like that. So I guess this is the closest to what I found, and this is also what my students tend to really like. It's just a summary, but
Oh,
it'll help with your understanding.
yeah, sure.
Let me know if you can see and hear my screen, okay?
Yeah, sure.
You heard that?
The play
Uh,
starts off in the
yeah.
middle of a
Okay.
the play starts off in the middle of a conversation between Roderigo and Iago. At this point, it's a bit difficult to understand what they're talking about, but it becomes clear eventually that Roderigo is upset at Iago. Roderigo is interested in a girl named Desdemona, the daughter of a respected senator named Brabantio. Apparently, Roderigo has even been paying money to Iago to achieve something, although it is at this point of the play unclear exactly why he was paying Iago. At a certain point, Roderigo doubts Iago and wonders if Iago really does hate a certain person that they happen to be talking about. And this person that the two are talking about, although never mentioned in Act 1, Scene 1 at all, is our main character, Othello. Iago responds with conviction and says that he most certainly does hate Othello. Othello is an army general who had the opportunity to promote a second in command, namely the lieutenant. But even after three respected people in the city referred Iago as the one to be chosen, Othello chose a person named Michael Cassio instead, a person who has little experience in the battlefields as compared to Iago himself. As Roderigo and Iago continue to speak to each other, we find out that Othello is likely a dark-skinned person, as Iago calls him a Moor, which is a North African. At a certain point, Roderigo tells Iago that if Iago really does hate Othello that much, he simply shouldn't be Othello's follower. But to respond to that, Iago says, I follow him to serve my turn upon him. We cannot all be masters, nor all masters cannot be truly followed. And right from the beginning of the story, Iago's evil, cunning intentions to turn his back on Othello is already revealed by none other than Iago himself. He then comes up with a plan to wake up Desdemona's father, Brabantio, and try to stir up some commotion and anger towards Othello. Iago and Roderigo come to the gates of Brabantio's house and shout out at the house. When Brabantio eventually comes outside, Iago starts to say some really nasty things. Your heart is burst and you have lost half your soul. Even now, very now, an old black ram is tapping your white ewe. Iago tells Brabantio that an old black ram is sleeping with his white lamb, referring to Othello sleeping with Brabantio's daughter, Desdemona. At first, Brabantio is doubtful of the two, especially after he recognizes Roderigo as the person that he has already rejected several times in the past, when Roderigo had come to his house to try to unsuccessfully win the heart of Desdemona. However, after a moment passes, Brabantio cannot help but to be worried about the matter. So he goes inside to wake up his household and find his daughter. In the meantime, Iago tells Roderigo that it would be dangerous to be seen working against Othello right now. So he claims that he will have to fake his loyalty towards Othello and leaves. When Brabantio comes back to Roderigo, he confirms that his daughter is in fact missing. At this point, he even entertains the idea that it would have been better if Roderigo, the man that he had been rejecting as his potential son-in-law, would have just married his daughter instead of Othello. And so the scene ends with the angry Brabantio rounding up his men and storming off to hunt down none other than the respected military general, Othello.
And then this is
If you're taking
actually
anatomy and physiology for the first time, I can guarantee it's not like any course that you've ever taken. And that's why so many students.
Iago has arrived to warn Othello that Brabantio knows about his marriage with Desdemona, and that Brabantio will be coming for him. This immediately shows us how conniving a person Iago is, as he is going through great lengths to portray himself as a loyal person, even though he was a conspirer behind the whole situation. Iago tells Othello that Brabantio is a respected person of Venice, almost as important as a duke himself. But Othello responds by saying that his military accomplishments for Venice will not be overshadowed by Brabantio's powers, and that he is actually of royal blood himself. The conversation is interrupted by the sound of men rushing towards them. When Othello asks who that might be, Iago suggests that this must be Brabantio and his men. When the men arrive, however, we find out that it is in fact not Brabantio's men. Instead, Michael Cassio and a group of officers arrive to notify Othello that the Duke needs to speak with Othello immediately about state matters affecting Cyprus, an island controlled by Venice. So Othello goes inside his home to prepare to leave immediately. While Othello is getting ready, Iago tells Cassio that Othello got married tonight, but before he can say who Othello got married to, Othello comes back outside his home and is ready to leave. Suddenly, the departure is quickly interrupted by the arrival of Brabantio, Rodrigo, and a group of men that are angrily holding onto their torches. At first, the men draw their swords, and Iago is even scheming enough to say, "You, Rodrigo, come, sir." Iago pretends like Rodrigo was his enemy that he wanted to fight against, acting like he is loyal to Othello once again. But with his powerful reputation, Othello says, "Keep up your bright swords, for the dew will rust them. Good signor, you shall more command with years than with your weapons." After instructing the men to put away their swords, Othello wisely suggests that Brabantio uses his wisdom and years to command the situation, as opposed to his weapons. At this point, it is important to consider what Shakespeare has done, as it is quite deliberate in nature. If you consider the events that occur in the Bible in John chapter 18, verses 1 to 11, where officers arrive with swords and torches to arrest Jesus, then you might find a striking resemblance between the characters in the Bible and some of the characters in Othello. Interestingly, it is one of Jesus' disciples, Judas Iscariot, who betrays Jesus and pretends to be loyal to Jesus in the midst of a fight that might break out. At this moment, Jesus famously says, "Put up thy sword in the sheath." So Iago is comparable to Judas Iscariot in that he also betrayed his leader and is cunningly pretending to be loyal. Othello is given quite some honorable and wise characteristics by responding in a way that likens his qualities, at least for now, to the biblical characteristics of Jesus himself. However, one cannot help but notice that there certainly are differences between why Jesus might have told people to put their swords down and why Othello might have said the same thing. After all, Jesus did not want to put up a fight because he was accepting his fate and because he wanted to become ransom sacrifice, as was already part of a grand plan. However, Othello does not quite seem to be doing the same action in an effort to accept his fate. No, not at all. In fact, he is likely saying this with a certain amount of power and authority, where he is actually trying to control his situation and steer it in a way that is most sound, quite the opposite of accepting one's fate. But despite Othello's rather calm approach, Brabantio lashes out at Othello with accusations. O thou foul thief, where hast thou stowed my daughter? If she in chains of magic were not bound, whether a maid so tender, fair, and happy, so opposite to marriage that she shunned the wealthy, curled darlings of a nation, would ever have to incur a general mock run for her guardage to the sooty bosom of such a thing as thou, to fear, not to delight. Judge me the world, if it is not gross in sense that thou hast practiced on her with foul charms, abused her delicate youth with drugs or minerals that weakens motion, I'll have it disputed on. Lay hold upon him, if he do resist, subdue him at his peril. Brabantio insults Othello, saying that there's no way his daughter would have fell for Othello, unless she was drugged or taken against her will. But Othello says that while Brabantio might want him to be imprisoned, he is at the moment being summoned by the Duke himself, and must therefore head off to fulfill his duties. In light of this, Brabantio decides to go with Othello to see the Duke and get to the bottom of the issues that have arisen regarding his daughter, Desdemona.
All right. How do you feel about that?
That was like a lot of things happening. And well, I mean, I think Othello's like kind of like a nice guy. I think he's I mean not nice, but like I think he's calm and then he's also I think he's like also like kind of intelligent towards like handling like situations like sudden offers like Barbentio like just charging for him and stuff. And I feel like Iago like Lego is a very like sly character. Like
Hmm.
I feel like before like I was just like knowing the plot and I thought like maybe like Othello was kind of stupid, and now I think that if I was Othello I also couldn't tell that Iago was like the bad guy because he was just like too sly and then and stuff. So I think like I couldn't really blame Othello.
Yeah, you're right. And honestly, you're right. Like, Othello does not seem like a bad guy, but he ended up doing bad things because of the manipulation.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you want us to watch Act 3 now or at the end of class?
I think end of class because like I
Whenever
want to
you
like
are ready to
save
finish.
I want to like save it for later.
Okay, all right. So we'll do it at the end of writing. I mean, at
Yeah.
the class, sorry. How much time do you think you need left for this?
I think like 10 to 20 minutes. I'm on like question 2 and 3.
Okay. Meng, I am gonna go to the bathroom, but I'm still here, all right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm back, all right? But whenever you're done, just let me know.
Sure.
All right, so I want you to take the next 5 minutes to wrap up your ideas and paste it in the chat, all right?
Okay, sure.
All right, can you post whatever you've got in the chat?
Can you give me like 5 more minutes just to like wrap up this paragraph?
Sure, take your time.
Thank you.
No problem.
Miss, I'm finished.
Yes, I just saw the chat. Can you read it for me while I post it in chat?
Yeah, sure. Um, so the first one is she's abused, stolen from me, and corrupted. Uh, Brabant Hughes's opinion on Desdemonia's faithfulness is caused by Legos' manipulation. Lego accurately touched upon Brabant anxiety towards maintaining dominance over his daughter as a way of showing his masculinity and control over his daughter. By this, Iago uses words to provoke Brabantio into believing Desdemonia's unfaithfulness. This shows that trust may easily collapse when the external message is a threat towards one's social status. 'Tis yet to know which when I know that boasting is an honor. Othello's attitude towards reputation leads to his unintelligent action towards Desdemona. His obsession towards honor led to his irrational action of killing Desdemona and overly trusting Iago's words. His obsession made him blind towards Desdemona's actual feeling towards him, allowing Iago the chance to break through his protection and causes him to ruin his life. So much I challenge that I may profess due to the more my lord. Desdemona is willing to convince him to her father and persuade him to accept Othello due to her love towards Othello. Her way of proving her innocence is by showing the love between Othello and her. Desdemonia's argument about love and loyalty is expressed through her heartfelt emotions and emotional appeals.
Nice. Okay, I honestly, your evidence is amazing.
Thank you.
Fantastic use of evidence, fantastic analysis. One thing I would probably give evidence on is, sorry, not evidence, feedback on would be try to explain try to explain the importance of your point. Because your evidence and your actual citation is amazing, but we need to know why that is important. How does that correlate to the question that we're saying right now, right? So,
Yeah.
for example, when you said his obsession made him blind, so his obsession, so you said Othello's obsession towards honor, right? It made him blind towards Desdemona's actual feelings towards him. And what's the proof of that? How did he do that? You know? So although you and I both know his obsession is what ended up having her die in the end, when you're writing something, you kind of have to act like the other person reading it does not know anything that is going on.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because
Next,
I'm just assuming that like the other person just knows the plot, but like maybe they doesn't.
yeah, maybe they don't. So you need to make sure that you kind of explain every time you write, this is a great draft, and then you had to ask yourself who, what, where, when, and why. Are you answering all those questions? And if you are, then you're good. And if you're not, then you have some missing pieces.
Yeah,
Okay?
I
But
get
aside
it.
from that, it's great. But why don't I go into my form of arguments until we watch the final scene?
Yeah, sure.
So, I got for Iago's argument in persuasive of rhetoric and manipulation. I feel like his manipulation of Othello brought hold on to the ability to bring doubt using calculated language and carefully crafted scenarios. So, for an example, he would insinuate um, Desdemona's unfaithfulness in Act 3, Scene 3, where he says, "Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth moth the meat it feeds on." In which, here you can tell, it shows that Iago's appears to be so cautious about Othello and against jealousy. And the warning that it serves would kind of talk about Desdemona's unfaithfulness. He's kind of referring to her as a green-eyed monster, right? So he further manipulates Othello by kind of like trying to be reluctant in the way of Cassio. He was like, men should be what they seem, or those shall not. Would they might seem none. So this implies that Cassio is not as honorable as he appears, leaving Othello desperate for more information. Right? So this right here shows jealousy because he's trying to act like Cassio is not as honorable as he appears. Iago
Yes.
then uses his circumstantial evidence, such as the handkerchief, um, to like kind of continue on with his insinuation and manipulation of Desmodana in Act 3, Scene 3, where he was talking about Cassio dreaming of Desmodana. He's like, in sleep I heard him say, Sweet Desmodana, let us be wary, let us hide our loves. So he basically is trying to say that Cassio said this in his dream. What is the proof of that? Right? Which kind of started, this is what actually made Othello end up wanting to kill um Desmodana
Oh,
because of the false affair.
oh yeah.
Right? So, yeah, this was just a quick example. Another one can be Othello's argument in honor and reputation. So, Othello's sense of honor and reputation, like you said, is what drove him to tragic decisions. And you were right, because he had a place in society, it was kind of like pride and arrogance, right? He
Yes.
like as once he saw, we kind of have proof of his lack of self-control where he says, Give me the ocular proof, or by the word of mine eternal soul, thou hast been born a dog, then answer my wicked wrath, which in this statement underscores Othello's obsession with visible evidence. He needs actual evidence to see if his wife was cheating or not. And that's when the whole handkerchief, sorry, um, he saw all of that, and then he also thought his evidence was whatever Iago said, Cassio ended up saying in his dream about Desmodana.
Yes.
So yeah, in Act 5, Scene 2, Othello then frames his actions as necessary to preserve his honor, and he says, Yet she must die, or else she'll betray more men, right? So he's
Yes.
trying to justify for killing Desmodana, reflecting his own jealousy and insecurity and like unbelief of whether she's being faithful or not. And then because of this, Othello's tragic flaw lies in equating personal and public honor with actions that end up destroying what he holds very dear.
Yes.
And then finally, we would say Desmodana's argument would be she has multiple times said, Your wife, my lord, your true and loyal wife. She tried to talk to Othello, talking about how I'm your wife. You should not be trusting nobody else aside from me. And even though Othello did end up falling into Iago's lies, Desmodana was like, but I'm your wife. So she's trying to emphasize her position in Othello's life, regardless of his position in society. And although Othello was growing suspicious, and despite his anger, she remained calm and steadfast, and she kept exemplifying her commitment to the marriage. She was calm, she was collected, and she knows that she did nothing wrong. So in Act 6, Scene 3, she was talking to Emiliana and was talking about let nobody blame him, his scorn I approve, which highlights her devotion and tragic inability to confront Othello's jealousy effectively. Then, in the final moments, you see that Desmodana maintains her innocence and love for Othello even as she dies and says, A guiltless death I die, because she knows that she did not do anything wrong. And even when she was not proven guilty, but when she was wrongfully proven guilty, right? She still was innocent and she still stood by Othello's side, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a little something. Now let's end off today's class with Act Scene 3. Oh, can you hear it? No, right?
Not really.
Yeah, it's an ad right now. Let's wait until
The Duke and his senators are having a strategic military meeting about the Turkish army and how they are approaching Cyprus. Eventually, a sailor alerts them, saying that the Turkish army seems to be turning towards Rhodes instead, another island controlled by Venice. But the first senator and the Duke do not buy into the idea that the Turks are actually intending on conquering Rhodes. They speak about how Cyprus is important to the Turks, and that since Cyprus isn't as well guarded as Rhodes is, this must be some sort of military tactic stemming from the art of diversion. Then, a moment later, a new messenger enters to confirm that the Turkish army is actually turning back towards Cyprus, making the senator and the Duke correct about their prediction. But as they discuss their military concerns, they are abruptly interrupted. Brabantio immediately tells the Duke that a man has stolen his daughter, and to this, the Duke responds quite favorably and is almost ready to punish the man immediately. Happy to see that the Duke seems to be supportive of Brabantio's accusations, Brabantio then goes on to immediately turn towards Othello and accuses him to be the very man who stole his daughter. But now that Othello is known to be the man who is being accused, the Duke slows down on his word and asks Othello, "What in your part can you say to this?" In response to being given an opportunity to defend himself, Othello says that he can tell the story of how he and Desdemona legitimately fell in love with each other. But Brabantio cannot hold himself still and starts to accuse Othello with a barrage of insults. This time, however, the Duke is not so quick to support Brabantio and says that before making any rash decisions, there needs to at least be some sort of proof that Othello is in fact in the wrong. Othello asks them to first bring Desdemona, and while Iago is sent to fetch her, Othello starts to speak of their love story. He tells a story of how Brabantio would always ask Othello to tell his war stories to him. And when he did tell his stories to Brabantio, Desdemona was always very attentive and interested. And as time passed by, she had the chance to hear more of his difficult life stories, and eventually, through a natural process, they fell in love with each other. At this point, Desdemona and Iago enter the scene. The Duke is already leaning towards the side of Othello and says, "I think this tale would win my daughter too. Good Brabantio, take up this mangled matter at the best." But as a last resort, Brabantio asks for a chance to have Desdemona speak for herself. He says that if it was in her own will to love him, then he would not accuse Othello anymore. He ends with a heavy question asking her where her obedience lies. And although Desdemona has a difficult time answering this, she does take her husband's side and tells her father that she must now love her husband the same way her mother loved her father, namely him. This ends Brabantio's concerns, and he reluctantly decides to let go of the matter, giving the Duke his time and space to go back to his state affairs. The Duke moves on to request that Othello goes to Cyprus to prepare for the battles against the Turks. And Othello agrees to do this with a request of his own, that his wife be taken care of properly by the state. But when the Duke first suggests that Desdemona should stay at her father's place, Brabantio, Othello, and Desdemona all disagree to this idea. In fact, she tells the Duke that she wishes to be alongside her husband. So the Duke takes Desdemona by her decision and decides to end the meeting for the night and start again in the morning tomorrow. He asks Othello to name a trusted officer who can help him to bring his commission and other important things, and Othello names Iago as his honest and trustworthy man. While the men start to leave, Brabantio slips in a comment to Othello, which reveals how unhappy he really is. "Look to her, Moor. If thou hast eyes to see, she has deceived her father, and may thee." As the Duke, Brabantio, Cassio, and the senators leave, Othello assigns his wife to Iago and his wife, so that she can get prepared for the leave. As everyone exits the room, the only people left are Roderigo and Iago. Roderigo says that he just wants to kill himself by drowning. But Iago thinks that this is a silly idea. Iago tells Roderigo over and over again to sell his land and everything he's got so that he may be able to get together the funds in order to try to win over Desdemona. Iago tells Roderigo that he will get Desdemona to be with Roderigo eventually. And with that, Roderigo exits the room, leaving only Iago in the scene for his first soliloquy. In Iago's soliloquy, he further shows his hate for Othello. He admits that he's even heard rumors saying that Othello has slept with his own wife as well. He plans to lie to Othello, saying that Cassio is seducing Desdemona. The Moor is of a free and open nature, that thinks men honest, that but seems to be so, and will as tenderly be led by the nose as asses are. I have it. It is engendered. Hell and night must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light.
All right. Now, act one scene. Okay. So why don't we continue? Oh, actually, I do have to extend today's class. So do you just want to watch the final scene right now?
Yes, definitely.
And then we'll continue next week. But next week, I also do have a few more literary argument activities, especially in regards to Othello. So if anything, next week we'll finish our work and then we'll also end off with more Othello scenes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right.
Have you seen this new way that teachers are using AI to teach history? It's pretty crazy. It actually lets the students chat to historical figures.
Off on the shores of Cyprus, Montano, the governor of Cyprus, along with a couple of gentlemen, observe the storm out in the body of water. They predict that the storm must have drowned most of the Turkish army. We find out from a third gentleman that the storm indeed did affect the Turkish ships so badly that the war is conveniently over before it even had a chance to begin. Montano is happy to hear this, but is worried about the ship that Othello is on, whom he deeply respects. Othello is to become the governor when he arrives, and Montano reveals that he has served within Othello's army in the past. Then Cassio enters the scene, followed by Desdemona, Iago, Emilia, which is Iago's wife, and Roderigo. In a conversation amongst each other, Iago starts to offend his wife and also insults women in general. Cassio tries to tell the ladies that Iago could be a little bit rough on his words, and then takes Desdemona by the hand to speak with her. Iago thinks to himself that Cassio is being quite flirty, and that this will be perfect for his schemes that will soon be crafted. At this point, the trumpets sound, and Othello arrives. Desdemona and Othello are extremely happy to see each other, both safe and reunited. While the two rejoice at their reunion, Iago takes Roderigo aside and starts to convince him that Desdemona is in love with Cassio, while pointing out the fact that the two were intimately holding hands together, even though they were actually holding hands in a greeting sense only. Iago then moves on to tell Roderigo to start a fight with Cassio later on in the day, and that this would allow Iago to create a bad reputation for Cassio in Cyprus. The two agree to this idea, and Roderigo leaves. All alone, Iago reveals some of his inner thoughts. The Moor, howbeit that I endure him not, is of a constant, loving, noble nature, and I dare think he'll prove to Desdemona a most dear husband. Oh, I do love her too. Not out of absolute lust, though peradventure I stand account for as great a sin. But partly led to diet my revenge, for that I do suspect the lusty Moor hath leaped into my seat. Not only does Iago reveal that he wants Desdemona for lust, but he also reveals that he wants to get back at Othello. He truly believes that Othello slept with his wife, and on top of that, he ends up also revealing that he thinks Cassio must have also seduced his wife as well. And so, with all this doubt boiling up inside of him, Iago is determined to continue to scheme a grand lie that would bring everyone down.
All right.
Waterloo Region
Oops,
homeowner.
sorry. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will still try to find the analysis of the Othello. Do you have
Thank you so
questions?
much.
Of course, girl. Do you have any questions?
No, I feel like, yeah, the video was interesting.
Yeah. Is it helping you understand?
Yeah, definitely a lot.
Okay, that's all that matters then. And moving forward, what else do you want me to teach you? Do you like where we're going right now, or do you have any specific things that you're learning in class in school that you would like us to go over?
I love like what we're like teaching right now, but like maybe like um I'm actually not quite sure. Maybe just more practices like on the AP style, because I feel like basically it's just like a template and then I just have to have the ideas and you're like giving me a lot of ideas to write about.
Okay. All right. So to reiterate, you're saying, do you want us to keep doing the literary argument and just do it more AP style?
Maybe just more AP stuff, but I think like literary argument is like the only part which I could improve on.
Yes. So because you mentioned literary argument, that's why I made my lessons. It is AP style, but literary argument.
Yeah.
So if there are any feedback, please feel free to let me know. If you want us to do something else as well, feel free to let me know. I have a lesson for at least the next 2, 3 classes for literary argument. And if you want to continue, we can. And if you want to move forward, we can. That's up to you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you so much for today. Have a great rest of the day, all right? And rest of the week, and I'll see you next class next week.
Yeah, sure. Have a nice day.
You as well, and we'll continue watching Othello, and I'm so excited for next week.
Me too. Yeah,
All
definitely.
right. Bye, girl.
Bye.